As I say, what's amazing is, all right, this is great because here, all right, oh, there you go, there's the Vatican. And yeah, that's the one drawing for it. And of course, I'm looking at this as, treating this as in itself a separate piece of art. That's right. So I have to, as a curator, I look at this thing. It's great, look at all this detail and stuff. And then you go, but then up here, then he cross hatches over all of it. Like, how is that? Were there times where you thought, say that section or similar section turned out so well that you're like, oh, can we change it? Maybe it took place at noon and the sun's streaming right on. Great. And so, how often did that happen? Or were you pretty much, you always knew you were going to do that layer of cross-hatching?
No, I pretty much knew, yeah. Again, it's I'm looking for contrast and varying layers of tonal quality, right? And usually what I don't want to do is, believe it or not, with all this level of detail, I'm trying not to draw attention to myself. The thing with the tracing paper drawing is, it's got to be here first, because when I transfer it onto here, I'm going to lose a little bit of it, right? And I've got to know what it is here, just so I can give a vague indication of what it is here. I know it sounds crazy. It really was a crazy job, but I don't know how to put it any better than that. Because if I just did a very vague indication of what I wanted here, I would end up with even less here. Yeah, it would be completely lost. It wouldn't look like anything. Yeah. So, and again, because of her face and Cerebus with the gray, there was one level that was gray, and because this is where her hair is, it had to be a darker level. So this could only have been at a certain level of gray as far as I was concerned. And it's a background, so my tendency was to push everything back, and I didn't want things popping up at me.
I'm sure, especially at this point, because this is near the end of the beginning.
Right.
Was it so? This is my question to phrase. Was it so precise that you knew, all right, if this was in the immediate background or the middle background, the far background, it's like, right, that's just compromise, and then middle background is cross-hatching, and then an extra. I mean, was it pretty much that rigid?
Pretty much, yeah. What I would do is once I transferred this down, I had my pencil on the illustration board. I would go through and I would outline the major objects working back, right? And then I would fill in the solid blacks. And actually, that was actually a good. If I could have my solid blacks filled in by lunchtime, I was having a good day. And then I would spend the rest of the afternoon like this. And you do all the lines this way, you take the page and you turn it this way, and you go. And you put all the lines that way, and just slowly build up levels of gray and try to get some sense of depth.
And another table, your table is probably even
be a little more of an angle than that, yeah.
And the other thing of note, I guess, more broadly, these are the tracing paper drawings for latter days in 2002-ish, right? Somewhere around there.
Right.
And you see here that this drawing that's over there of Rick at the burning evergreen tree.
Right.
That's from '97. Here we're down to, and you see you see it's still there. It's like in the part of the world out, and it's almost like it's raised up from being just over to over.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the biggest sources of reference material that I use is the book itself.
Yeah.
Go back and refer to what was done before, and especially in situations like this where you want an echo effect and you want them, even if the readers don't pick up on it. And again, the problem with this one is you don't even see this whole image. Right. You only see this much of it in here. Right? She covers it up most of it there. See, actually, yeah, you can't even tell what that is really, right?
Unless you're a fan and you know that.
Unless you go, hey, that's a burning blush. Yeah. But it was, a matter of trying to call up previous, even if you don't recognize it consciously, there's going to be some sort of echo effect there. And I always went back and referred, if we revisited a room, I would go back, find the issue that was in, and use that as a reference again. We're trying to keep it consistent.
That's right, and I think I said one thing you succeeded with. Maybe let's go just to the very end, the last sort of group of paper drawings. So as I said, this whole wall is really from one issue, that double issue. That was from 2003, I guess. And for a lot of it, as you can see, that now that since the words have entered into the storyline, we've talked a couple times about how building in lots of light is good.
Great.
Happy pages here.
Well, actually, this issue is very unique in that these 2 pages here are the only ones I worked on. Dave did all of the rest of it himself, while I was actually working on the covers for the last day. And so, yeah, this was quite an achievement for Dave to especially, he said, having evaporated his lead time, doing all the research, and then banging out this double issue on time. Right? And yeah, these are actually the only 2 pages that I did.
And it's great because...
oh, no, that's not true. There is one more. Yeah, there's one.
There's 2 we got the trace of it.
Yeah.
Right here. And again, we're happy accident. Not only did I not know we were going to get these to loan, I also, I should say, I explained it all. But I didn't know that when this was all on the wall, these 2 pages would be here at the end of the wall, right at the wall where this one is.
Right.
I looked at really well, you know, just like the other pages.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is, of course, the scene in Genesis where where God is creating the animals. And you drew all of these animals here, or were there some animals that you didn't? So I guess the question is, which would be more fun to draw? Dave mentioned you're a whale person, so one mentioned.
Right.
So that was like a good day.
That was a great day. Yeah, actually, those were a lot of fun. And the weird mix of animals here, and just trying to place them all in context. For me, the penciling, the actual conceptualizing, and then penciling. Like, I actually like working on perspective and that. And once I get I don't know how many times I've said I'll finish the penciling or even the transferring down of the pencil onto the illustration board, and I'll look at it and go, okay, who wants to ink this? Right, and I'm usually the only one who puts up his hand.
That's something that's you're almost renowned for thinking, like people who have read Cerebus or whatever, and some of the backstory, and then the first issue following Cerebus, you're even quoted saying, I ruined it on an inked page, and you just think, how could anyone possibly think, come on, you're Gerhard, man.
Right.
And and I've heard that several times, so thinking inking was just a part of it. Was it more like you thought you were ruining this great thing with these wonderful tones of pencil, or more like it just ended up not matching what was in your mind?
Yeah, it's always a problem. Like Dave mentioned before, it's like it never turns out the way you have it in your head, and you shoot for 80%. You're happy if you get 60. Right? It's the days where you're going, I'm not even getting 30 out of this. No, it's like wrecking it. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I like the softness of the pencil, and my inking tends to reflect that, I think, because it's not just black and white. There's very many different shades of gray with all the cross hatching. So yeah, I'm trying to retain some of that softness from the pencil. I think the problem is when it's in pencil form, it's still all potential. This still has the potential for greatness, and as you lock it down in ink, in unchangeable, indelible ink, it's like, well, that's not great. But, it's done by 5 and I'm out of here, so I'm happy.
That's right, that must have been the nice side of it. It's like, well, if you're on the schedule, on one hand, it's the crushing deadline of having to get this book done, but then you also don't just endlessly go back and redraw.
If it wasn't for the monthly schedule, I would still be working on that page over there.
Yeah.
Trying to get it right.
Well, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jason.
And if anyone has any questions, I'd go open the floor.
Yeah, I was just wondering about some technical things. Like, do you ever use dip pens or?
Actually, I had to learn how to use the Hunt 102 dip pen because that's what Dave used, and I thought to keep a consistent look from the foreground to the background that I should be using the same material, and I never got the hang of that pen. Dave can do astounding things with that pen. Tiny little lines finer than a hair, and then a little bit of pressure, and you know, it feathers it up to this thick, and then back down to that. Then again, I do it, it just goes and spurts ink all over the page. So I tried that for many years. I did get better at it, but I ended up going back to the rapidograph, and it was kind of crazy because I was using 3 or 4 different thicknesses of rapidograph trying to emulate what Dave could do with the Hunt 102. It's just, I never felt I had a grasp on the Hunt 102, so I did end up, all of this was done with the rapidograph.
Like a 00 maybe, or 000?
Yeah, 00 to triple, I think, yeah.
And then the black areas, they're solid black, is that you brush with it?
Yeah, that's actually the only time. A lot of guys, and I'm very envious of them as well, who can ink with a brush with a very, you know, fine Winsor Newton 000 brush or something, and actually do all of that cross-hatching. And I have no idea how they do that either. The only time I use the brush is for filling in solid black. Thanks. Yeah.
Just trying to get this question to you before Dave came in, because I know this is sacrilegious.
Oh, you're not here?
I know this is sacrilegious, but is there any thought, you mentioned earlier about how you lost some of the detail going through newsprint, reproducing the pages in a nicer format, when you put it that way.
Oh, actually, yeah, actually we just had sort of a request of that, maybe doing like a portfolio or something along those lines, where, yeah, you can actually see, just do like a select number of pages from the book, and yeah, you can just do like a limited portfolio or something, where the pages would be actual size and on better paper. Probably maybe have like a poll on the internet or something to see what pages people would like to see done up full size like that.
That's not what you're asking me. No.
Oh, sorry.
We already asked him this a while. He loves that newsprint.
Oh, I know, the warm, I know. Well, there is a certain quality to the warmth of newsprint, but I mean, just for a few special pages, we could just show off.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you thought, well, I just can't get those fine lines. Because I've started to ask Dave, and he's like, and Gerhard and I had this competition, like, and I was always like, how does he get those really fine lines? How does he do that? And he thought that there was this kind of apparently unknown competition, and to be like, all right, get it to 000, like, tiny.
I know, because I would get the page, I would look at what Dave has done and go, oh my, okay, I got my work cut out for me to try to match that level of detail in those fine little lines. And I would get done, and Dave would look at the page I just finished and go, wow, look at all those little lines you put in there. I better get my some finer lines. Yeah, we just, like you said, it was an unknown competition. We're trying to get more and more detailed and finer lines until somebody finally just said, knock it off. Anyone else? Yeah.
The storylines you worked on from the start, like from Jacques' story on, is there a storyline that you're most happy with the work that you did on?
That's always tough too, because while I'm working on a book, I think, oh man, I suck. And then the book gets reprinted into one of the phone books, right? And so I'm working on the next story, thinking I suck, and let's say, Jacques' story, the phone book comes in, and I look through it and go, wow, why can't I draw like that now? And that was sort of an ongoing thing right up to the end. The book you just finished was at the same time the worst and the best one that you did. And Jacques' story is still a favorite of mine. I think we did some good stuff on Going Home, and especially the Fall in the River stuff. Although I think I drove people at printer nuts with that, because I'm using tone and cross-hatching and tone on top cross-hatching, but I think I like the look of that one. We did get better as we went along, definitely. Sorry, what was the question?
From Jacques' story on, the ones you worked on, is there one that you actually would consider your favorite?
My favorite. No, I don't think so. They all, there's pages, there's sections. Like they, pointed out the Africa sequence in Form and Void, where you hit a run, or you ride a wave. We used to call it riding a wave, where you would catch a wave and you just, all of a sudden you feel like you know what you're doing. And like you could accidentally drop the pen on the page and it would make this line, you go, that's perfect, I can work with that. And there's other days where you can't draw a straight line with a ruler, so it would really go, there was a lot of ups and downs. And So there's sections of every book I like, and there's sections of every book I can barely stand to look at.
None of those are in the exhibition.
No, these are all great.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys covered it in the first few minutes over in the other section, but I was wondering, like, how you guys met. I think, is it partly out of, like, the deadline thing that you needed someone to work on the backgrounds, or did you see, like, oh, his backgrounds would be great for Cerebus, or is like, backgrounds, why would I want to do backgrounds when I can do like this? Like, I mean, I would always assume that, like, oh, this Gerhard guy must be like some architectural nut that wants to get into like comic books but refuses to draw people. You know, I don't know. That's pretty close.
Because at the time, Dave was, his backgrounds were disappearing because his interest lay in the writing and the characters and getting facial features right. And he would sort of do like one establishing shot so that you knew where you were, and then the backgrounds tended to disappear after that. And at the time, I was trying to make a living drawing, basically drawing whatever I could. And I was at the time, like, one of my assignments was I had to draw a frozen beef pie using pointillism and make it look delicious. Get right on that. So, and I was actually doing some of the advertising work for Aardvark Anaheim, just in-house ads and ads that would be in the buyer's guide and whatnot. And I was actually at the time trying to do an exhibit of, I would do pen and ink illustrations and do a watercolor wash on top of that. And then had them framed up and do a show and sell two. And then, you know, take the rest home and hang them up in your own living room, which is where Dave saw them and said, geez, if I drew Cerebus and the word balloons, could you do this sort of stuff in behind there? And I went, I guess. So that's sort of where that started. Yeah.
I have a question. You started drawing home on the beginning of Form and Board.
Right.
I was, actually my question is for Rose. What was that like? I mean, having him working at home after... This is Rose, by the way.
It didn't really make much of a difference to me because I was at the office.
Yeah, luckily you weren't there when
I were at the studio because I wasn't there, so. But I think it was a change for the better. Just temperament-wise, he seemed to enjoy working at home better than he would take breaks when he could. He'd wander off and go play the bass for a while or whatever. And
Take the dog for a while.
Yeah, take the dog for a walk.
Because it was very frustrating. I mean, it started turning gray like 15 years ago, I think, and it was, and I grew an ulcer. That was fun. You know, all these side benefits of driving yourself nuts, trying to draw a little tiny more. So yeah, working at home was it was more relaxed. I was able to take breaks more often, but you still had to have that self-discipline to try to get through it by 5. Right?
Yeah.
Before Rose gets home.
And there's never anything where you're like, can you just put another layer of cross-hatching on me?
There was never anyone to slough the work off to.
Yeah.
I did fill in some solid black.
That's right, let's help with some solid blacks. Anyone else? Nope. I guess we're done.
I guess so. All right, well, I think we're going to be hanging out just for a little
Sure.
bit. The museum's open until 5, so another hour and a half. I'll be here, Dave will be here, I'll be here, and just feel free to look around. And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that there are 6 other galleries that are open. Gallery right across the hall is the university's permanent art collection. There's plenty of stuff to see in there. And other questions, we'll be around. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming up.
All right.